input. Now, we have had 3 requests for public input today. 2 of them are about the city centre, and we have Gary Blick coming in on item 10 to talk about the city centre and its post-recovery, post-COVID growth, which is all in the agenda papers. Not as bad as what people thought, actually. We will also hear from the PSA at the beginning of item 11, Pools and Leisure Service Delivery Model. Please remember questions, to keep them short and end in question marks. They're not actually speeches. In the interest of time and running an efficient meeting, we are going to have 2 questions per presenter. First up, we have Gail Baldock on the closure of Smith & Coe, something which we all regret, including most of all my wife. I read in the paper earlier this week that there were still options on the table, which is encouraging for my wife and for Councillor Fletcher, who raised it too. You have 5 minutes. Gail Baldock, off you go.
Hello, Gail Baldock from Ngāmutu Taranaki, but I've spent most of my life living in Auckland, and I've worked in architecture here for 30 years, and I have a behavioural science background as well. So here we are in our heyday of when Queen Street was vibrant, full of people, and Smith & Coe's was one of those main reasons that people came here. I've warned today death, because pretty much we're killing Queen Street at the moment. So 144 years of Smith & Coe's, and here they are closing. Now, I haven't used this before, so I'm just trying to move to the next slide. Oh, that's how I do it. The reason behind this is manyfold. One of them is the City Centre Master Plan, which is meant to be a vibrant and bountiful place for everyone. We want to, according to the write-up in the City Centre Master Plan, we want it more accessible, more attractive, more prosperous. It's critical to the economy, being Queen Street, cultural, historical, commercial, professional and retail heart of Auckland. Unfortunately, there's been a number of things that have been killing it. One of them is this idea of putting pedestrians first. We're all pedestrians no matter what mode of transport we use. We've got the city rail link coming into the city. It's meant to be bringing in a lot of people, but we've got this plan which is called Access for Everybody, or everyone, sorry, Access for Everyone. It's including walking, cycling, scooters, Uber, taxi, whatever you like, and buses, but it seems to be accept a whole big lineup there of cars, trucks, freight, and emergency services get really restricted by the closing down of Queen Street. So in the thinking of pedestrians, we need to first of all think about those that are mobility impaired, and this is really what our footpaths are for pedestrians, and our streets are for vehicles, and people drive those vehicles. So this is Smith & Coe's as it is now, and you can see in the right-hand side that it says that there is a GV lane. Most people don't know what that is. It's a revenue trap. So Auckland Council have set up a revenue trap, and this is what kills retail, and that's exactly what it's doing. So in the banning of private vehicles from Queen Street, Auckland Transport has managed to collect $5 million in fines over the last 16 months. Those fines are because they have a shortfall of 500 million, and they're wanting to spend it on the cycleways. As you all know, the event centre had a food court beneath it, but that food court has gone. That's all empty, as are huge chunks of Queen Street. There's another empty section through here where the grill is there. There's a whole arcade that's empty that's having a new building built there. The pharmacy's moved along the road, and they next to them is the McDonald's building, which is also going to be another development. Now, if you're killing Queen Street, you're teaching people that it's not a place to come to. It's being made really unwelcome, and you here are the ones that can change that. The other plan is that it's meant to be that High Street and the other small scaled streets either side of Queen Street are likely to get better and better. Well, that hasn't been happening either, and part of the plan is to make High Street into pedestrian only. And you know, you're already stopping people from coming into Queen Street. I went to a function last night and everyone was talking about how much they hate coming in, how rarely they come in. You can ask me some questions about that in my 2 questions. This is the plan for High Street in the city centre master plan. All looks very nice, but in reality, in 2018, there was a one-off evening of what it would be like to close High Street down for pedestrians only. It was a dismal failure. I've done my own surveys of these businesses. If you want to ask me some questions about that, you know, I've got very limited time, so I'm happy to answer that. But this is really what Queen Street is like at the moment. Revenue traps, revenue traps, revenue traps. They've just got to stop. The Centre City Master Plan has failed Aucklanders, and it's time to review it. I agree with you, Mr Mayor, when you said that at the last governing body. So let's make Queen Street welcoming again. In that City Centre Master Plan, it also talks about other matters, bringing together 19 iwi was my plan for what we could do for the outside of the downtown car park, and we also have got to stop killing trees as well. Happy to take questions.
Thank you for that very thoughtful and well presented presentation. Who's that?
Oh, that's trying to go back. Won't let me go back. It was Dean Kimpton, and he was saying we need to be listening to the people, and that cycleways were meant to raise from 17% to from 1% to 17% of commuters, but in reality they're stuck at 1%. And his comment was, so is the lesson that we can build it and they still won't come. So no need for the revenue traps to try and build cycleways. They're not working. They're not helping the planet, which was what they were meant to do, because they're not being used in this rainy, hilly city. We need to bring people back into the centre and make it vitalised again. Otherwise, what's the point of the centre city? Or sorry, the rail. What's the point of bringing people in? It's supposed to be the equivalent of Melbourne Cup Day on a regular basis through the day of people coming in. But what are they going to come in for if you kill it?
Okay, yeah. I've got some questions from Councillor Sayers and Councillor Dalton, please.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Gail, for your presentation. You started to answer the question. So you mentioned about how the vision is the City Rail Link will allow people to flood into the CBD. I guess it's if you could project yourself forward and using your background in behavioural sciences as well. If the master plan gets finished, what are they going to come in for? So why would you come in?
That's right.
A, number one, and B, if you feel that there's a shortfall there, what are you proposing as the alternative into the master plan? If you said we need to change something, what do we need to change? So if you just cover those two for Miguel, what are they going to be coming in for? Because I'm failing to see it, but you might be able to help answer that for me. And if there isn't any reason to come in here, how can that be created as an opportunity for Aucklanders to come and enjoy the whole CBD? Right.
So behavioural science-wise, it takes 3 weeks to make a habit and 3 days to lose that habit. We've had more than 3 years teaching people that this is not the place to come to the centre of the city. We've got road cones everywhere, we've got construction everywhere. We need to stop some of that and recover it while we can. So we need to do things like you guys could give rate relief to some of these people I know you're short on your own money as well, but you could give some rate relief to encourage these people to stay. If it was Harrods closing, then the government would have stepped in to save them. And Smith & Coe's is our Harrods. And so what we need to do is we need to look for the things that are attracting people in and find a way to vitalise that. I've made some suggestions. You know, you've seen the Seawall Market, which is, you know, down at the bottom of town that I've suggested. But there's a whole raft of things like that that I would love to put to you of how you can actually revitalise at the moment. And you need to protect what's there. And whilst Smith & Coe's have talked about staying on and only being in the lower level of their building, they've got a heck of a load of stock they've got to sell. Of course they're going to stay on until they sell their stock. We need them to be around, and a lot of these businesses to be there for at least a year after the Central Rail Link opens. And the first thing we need to do is to get rid of those revenue traps and allow people to travel through Queen Street and stop on the way. And we need to put in some parking for people in the centre of Queen Street, because people do drive. It is part of how people get around. So I'd love to talk with you more about, I just obviously don't have the time for a whole series of things that I would suggest that you do, but listen to the architects and the retailers. You know, New Zealand is built on small business. That's what these retailers are. We need to protect them.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dalton, please.
Thank you. We mix in different circles, mine being the outer suburbs. And the people in the outer suburbs love what is happening to the city. They love the accessibility through the train in particular, and they love what has happened, particularly down in the waterfront area, and the changes to Queen Street. So I just want to clarify with you, you're well experienced, you have been here a long time. What you're asking for is a reversal of the city centre master plan. The pedestrian, you want to reverse the pedestrianisation of the city, specifically Queen Street, and you'd like a 1970s approach to the future of our city.
No, I don't want a 1970s approach to the centre of it.
Sorry, what year was the photo from?
Well,
was it 1970?
There's a series of photos that I have in there, and they're from various times.
1950 maybe?
That particular photo was. There are other photos as well, but, you know, we actually had a vibrant Queen Street, and, you know, I go around asking people, like I was at a function last night, I said, 2 questions for you. When was the last time you went into Queen Street, and what did you go there for? And most people said, 10, 20 years, months, can't remember when, it's so unwelcoming, there's not a lot to go in for. You know, it was a whole pile of negativity. And I'm not asking to reverse it back to the 1970s, because we all know that in the 1980s the council were made up of people that tried to deter people from bringing cars into the city. At the time, developers, because I was there in the heyday of that, developers gave a fee to the council to build car park buildings, and now that those are so expensive, and that the downtown car park is sold, which is one of the cheaper ones in town, all of these things are detrimental. We need to include everyone. And everyone does include people that, particularly, we've got a quarter of the population that have got mobility impairment. We've got one disabled car park outside Smith & Coe that the only way you can get to it is to drive up Queen Street, U-turn and park in it. I sent an email out showing how the Queen Street was narrowed, and in that they were meant to be providing disabled car parking throughout. That was also done against standing orders. So I sent an email out to everyone with my article from the Ponsonby News on that. And so what we really need to be doing is including everyone. And the people that you're talking to that might say they love it, where's the evidence? Because the evidence would show that someone like Smith & Coe's, which is one of the main attractors to the city, would be vibrant in the number of customers there if that was correct. And I'm sorry, I do not believe that most of the people in West Auckland are saying they love the centre city as it is.
I live in South Auckland, but thank you.
Yeah.
You have
I beg your
more than
pardon.
answered my
I beg your
question,
pardon.
and I got the answer I
Okay,
expected.
thanks for that. I said I'd keep it to 2.
Well, that's the thing,
Point of
is I
order?
think that we need to
Excuse me, please just stop that nonsense.
we need to relook at the
wanted-
centre
I've
city
had-
master plan.
I
to-
said
to
I'd
see
limit
that.
it to 2 questions per thing, but Councillor Lee does actually represent that, or oddly enough, from an island, but he is a local representative, so I'll allow you to make a question. Thank you.
I'm happy to move the motion. I represent more than Waiheke Island, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Thank you for, it was a thoughtful presentation. We've got
Thank
another
you.
one coming along the same lines, and I think after that we probably will have a thought about another look at the city centre plan, maybe not a full review, but a lot of things are hanging off that that are unfinished yet.
Yeah, some of the things worked.
And they're underway now, and we can't stop them.
Yeah.
And you can't reverse time. We are where we are. We've got a whole lot of things that are happening. They are causing disruption. They are slower than they should have been. In fact, as I pointed out, the City Rail Link and the city centre is in a contest with the conference centre to be the longest and most over time and over budget projects the country's ever seen. But we do hope that we'll live to see the end of those. So thank you for your presentation. Councillor Lee has moved that we receive it, and I'll second that, and all those in favour please say aye. Aye. On the contrary, thank you very much for that, and I'd welcome Viv Beck from out of the city to address us on, I imagine, a similar vein. Thank you.
Discussion last time raised by Councillor Walker just about the city centre, and you've got your report today. I have requested time. I've got a jug dish from Roma Blooms with me. I thought it might be helpful for you to have the opportunity to perhaps ask questions of someone who's experienced 8 years of serious disruption. I think what we've seen, in fact, the Mayor was there present as well this week. We saw the opening of the Horizon Hotel, which is actually a really exciting thing, and it starts to show the potential for this area to really come to life. So I think actually the vision is exciting. What I'm here to talk about is actually the unbelievably challenging time it's been for many of the people we represent. And I'm here to express actually some quite specific requests between now and the momentous day when our City Rail Link opens. I think that's something that I've read the report you've got today. You've got some good macro data in there, which I think is helpful. But often the macro data doesn't drill into what is actually being experienced out there. So I'm just going to give you another layer. I'm going to talk fast because I've probably used a minute already. I've got 3 brief examples. One of them is Queen Street. I don't want to get distracted about Queen Street. I mean, we actually were supportive of upgrading Queen Street. We just only ever wanted it to be beautifully designed as our most famous street, operationally functional, and safe and accessible for everyone. So they were the sorts of things that we were keen to see. I do particularly want to talk about the essential vehicle area because we do get a lot of complaints about this, and I'll go through 2. One from an events organiser who's about to launch an event here, who expressed concern about the lack of taxi access to our nighttime economy, including the Civic. And I'll read you the latest complaint I've had, actually from a member of the public. I've recently received a fine from AT for driving in a bus lane in the inner city. I'm very frustrated as I now see why, coincidentally, stores like Smith & Co are having to close. I certainly don't want to come into the city again. This does feel like a revenue gathering scheme that is crippling our CBD. Something needs to change in our CBD and will continue to deteriorate further until no one comes into it to shop. I hope you will take this seriously. We do take this seriously, and I know that's an AT decision, but I'm raising it because they all add up for the people trying to do business here and the people trying to come here through all the construction, and they echo the complaints we get regularly. Now, the information we have, which actually is a bit different to what Gail have, maybe a different time frame, but we were told that AT has raised $12 million of revenue in 16 months. However, I also know that sales in the Wellesley Street to Merrill Drive section dropped 55% overall from 2019 to the end of 2023. That's a drop of 17 million in 2023. So it is actually affecting people who are operating there. So not only have we got that happening, but we've got the 18 months ahead of the Wellesley Street bus works. And water care, which I understand is essential, but it's been delayed again. It's starting later this year, 15 months in that area. And then to top it off, we've got wastewater works beginning in early 26, scheduled completion early in 2027. So I'm painting a picture that for people trying to trade in these areas, it's extremely difficult. That's a lot of works for people to have on their doorsteps. Secondly, I'd like to talk about CRL, and once again, a really aspirational project that we support. It will totally unlock access to the central city, and people will be able to come here a lot more easily. And I do thank the councillors here who have shown support over the time as we long, hard haul fight to get a hardship fund for those impacted. And I would acknowledge that Councillor Lee has been part of that work. There are remaining grievances to be put right, and it is possible to do so within the hardship fund and the promises that were made, bearing in mind also that the project has been seriously delayed. And when we met with the former Minister of Transport, these people were told it would finish in about 3 years in 2021. So they're facing an extraordinary situation of another couple of years before 54,000 people spill out of that CRL, good as it is looking, underneath. I think the other thing that's really troubling us is that we've had a collective push to raise the importance of operational functionality. Things like loading, servicing and loading, really boring, but actually really matters. And I know I've been into Roma Blooms when they haven't had their flowers at 11:15 in the morning. Jug has lost his long-term courier. I've got another business telling me they've been charged $40 twice now to go and lug their gear from a block, blocks away because they haven't got decent loading. And the irony is they've been charged $35 million of targeted rate, of which 95% comes from business, and their needs are not being met. So third example, before I wrap up, is just Wynyard Quarter. The lack of urgency that we've seen there and the lack of really understanding the impact on those businesses is not good. And also, it risks the sale GP if that delivery date. We haven't seen urgency and we haven't seen an understanding of those business needs. So I'm just going to quickly wrap up. We're asking council to rethink your approach to give these people a fair go. It's one thing to have a city centre master plan that is aspirational to guide investment, and we have seen benefits already coming from that. But the reality is it's another thing to make sure what it's delivering meets the needs of the various users, and projects costing billions of dollars should be evaluated before more are started. And we're not seeing those evaluations. I have often been told that the businesses are not that successful. And I would ask you to really think hard about that, because if someone has actually put their heart and soul into building up a business and they are happy with how it's operating before construction hits their doorstep for however long it's going to be, I don't think it's up to a person in an office to judge whether that is a successful business. I think they need to be given a fair go. And I think what matters is their ability to trade being unreasonably interfered with by public works. So what I'm asking you to do, please, is do everything you can do to support businesses facing unreasonable lengths of time for delay. I'm asking you to have an attitude of urgency around this. You as the collective you, I'm talking about the council group here. It's policies that could actually help bring people here, even if it was just till the CRL was open. We're not asking to go backwards, we're asking to support this period to the CRL opens. Practical thinking and balance in transport planning, which is modelled off large, dense international cities. And I'll finish on the words of Tony Cowie: we need a friendly place for people to come and a friendly place to do business. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Viv. Probably the best speech I've heard you make, actually. I'll like finish what we're doing before we start new things was one of my 5 campaign things, and evaluate new projects before we kick them off. We have a long, perfect record of overestimating the benefits and underestimating the costs. And I feel sorry for all those people like you with your flower business. And all my mates like Nev, Finlay and that are all moaning about it, because it is making it bloody hard everywhere I go down there. And everyone says it's going to be great in the future, but I don't know if I can live long enough for that. And so I have a great deal of sympathy. I have some questions, and they are from Richard Hills and Julie Ferry, and I will allow Mike as our local to have the last one. So.
Kia ora, and thank you, Viv, for the presentation. Just, I guess, a comment, and then I totally understand the issues, and I think many of us have tried to figure out ways to improve the situation, and of course COVID and those delays have just been a huge issue there. But I guess from my point of view, as your kind of role is to promote the city, what people tell me, at least on the shore, is that I guess all the stories often you do talking about all the bad things, they kind of get turned off coming here. And then I get messages going, we went into the city the other day, Te Komititanga, amazing, busking. I went up Queen Street, amazing. Wynyard Quarter, Commercial Bay, Britomart, we come in on the bus every couple of weekends. And Wynyard Quarter the other day, when the art show was on, we couldn't even get a table in Good George. So I guess, how do you feel like you can do this with us, with police, but also help encourage people to come here? Because I think if we talk it down all the time, do you agree that talking it down all the time scares off?
I don't believe we do, and I'll explain. More than 85% of our work would be all the social media do. We get 6.5 million hits a year on our website. I mean, the reality is we do a lot of positive work. We've got Restaurant Month starting today. We've got Art Week in October. We've got a massive promotion for Christmas. The publicity we have done is about advocating for what the city has needed. We never feed bad stories. We respond, and we have advocated for 3.5 years since the beginning of COVID for more police, a downtown police station, mental health and addiction support, and better management of emergency and public housing with wraparound support, because we saw what happened before COVID. We have, if you look at all of our stories, it is fed by people who are so distressed. They are either facing an untenable situation with their business or crime or issues that they're dealing with. That is what has fed it. We have responded very consistently in our messaging. And if you have a look through, I challenge you to find me giving salacious... I can assure you I deal with all sorts of things 7 days a week, and I do not speak about it in the media. I stick to what we believe our city needs. And so I don't believe we have fed negative media. No, I respond, and I can't control what people say. It's a bit like the commentary around Queen Street. We supported that. If you look back, all of the stakeholders supported that project. It actually got turned into something that we never, ever said. So we just wanted it to be a great street, as our most famous street, accessible for everyone, including the mobility impaired, and we wanted it to be safe. So I do think, I understand the point, but in the end also, you have to make sure a place is actually safe before you say it's safe. You know, you can't put lipstick on something, and I have advocated, our organisation has advocated extensively to make sure it's safe. We are all working together, and we have now got police. We're hopeful to get a stronger permanent presence. That's something we also want. We're now seeing a coordinated social response to the people that need help. There's still work to do, but by gosh, it's better than it was 3.5 years ago when we started that.
Thank you. And thank you. And the other question was, obviously, most people arrive by public transport, or the 40,000 people who live here. But how do we get the message out? So this car park under here on Queen Street is, I walk past it every day. It's 600 spaces empty almost every day, and the Victoria one has over 300 spaces empty every day. How do we get the message to people that there are quite good available car parks if they need to use them?
We feed that into all of our market. If you have a look at our website and our various, we do communicate parking, because it is one of the things that people actually do want, whether people like it or not. They do want affordable parking, and we actually actively promote it through all our channels. And as I say, the channels are really well, they've got good numbers and good hit rates, etc. And I think a lot of it is fed by people's experiences. And if they've had a bad experience coming here, they get hit with 150. That does so much damage to people that it actually does. That is a common message I get. I've read it out because it's a real person out there who has made that comment. That is very damaging. So people feel like it's hard to come here. You know, we do our best to promote the fact that there's great things on and it's easier than you might think. But as Jug will tell you, it actually is quite hard in places. And that's a fact of what I'm talking about over the next 18 months to 2 years. We do need to make some practical, sensible decisions to make sure people keep coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Questions, and I think it supports the money we've put into security. I think that question leads to, and I've paid $150 I also have been confused. We must ask AT, do they have that high fine to encourage people to get out of the car onto a bus? Accidentally, they're encouraging people to not come. I think that's the unfortunate thing. We've got a next question is from Councillor Fick.
Thank you.
I've got, and then Councillor Lee. Yeah.
Kia ora, thank you. Kia ora, Viv, and nice to see someone here from Roma. Sorry I didn't catch your name. Great. What I wanted to ask about was actually the compensation scheme, because this is the first time in New Zealand's history that there's actually been a compensation scheme for this kind of disruption, and I think we can potentially learn quite a lot from it. So how do you feel, and particularly, I know you will have received, hopefully, some stuff through the compensation scheme. How do you feel that has worked? And I mean, probably this is a very long answer, but maybe a succinct response about what we do next to sort of learn from it for next time. Because at the moment, there is no plan for any other compensation schemes. As I say, that's the first and only so far. The idea was it wouldn't set a precedent. I think as a city, we actually need to grapple with, should this actually be something we look at more consistently, particularly big projects that are coming. So how have you found that, particularly as a recipient of it? And Viv, you as someone who's advocated for it and then, you know, has contact with people who are receiving it. If you just sort of give us a little bit of an insight into that, because I'm interested in where that discussion goes next in particular. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Jugdish and we own Roma Blooms. Now, we've been there since 2013. Now, we didn't have an idea that this disruption was going to be as big as what it was. And when it started, everybody that came to us, the people that were in charge, the managers and that, said that it's all going to be very prosperous for us in 2021. It's all going to be completed. It's going to be up and going and running. 2021. So we said, how do we survive? And they said, look, it's going to be up and running in 2021. You only got 2016 that started, so yeah, you'll survive. But we still kept on asking the question. And then they said they've got no budget for us. They've ripped up the street. They've disturbed all our pedestrians. They've taken bus stops away. We've lost thousands of people walking past. Our rent hasn't changed. It's actually gone up. And then they're saying, oh, you're okay, you know, business as usual. They put signs up saying business as usual. It's not as usual. When your street's closed for 8 years, Albert Street, the main, you know, and loading zones. You know what? The whole plan about this as well, when they were doing this, they said they're going to sort out loading zones for us, have priority for us, for our customers or whatever. It never happened. It was basically, when you get there, oh, we're going to have to make room. Oh, no, you can't park here. But they've got priorities for the construction to happen. They had vehicles parked in areas that shouldn't have been parked in areas. We've had caravans parked in areas that shouldn't be parked there for the whole day. And I said, what's this? We can't even get our loading, our stuff in. And this is what we've been going through. This has been mentally stressful for us. But the actual fund, yes, we fought for it. It took us a lot of time to fight for it, to get it. And it does help. It's not saying it doesn't help. And it would help for the future if there is projects like that. It would be a great advantage for them. But you still got to make sure that if you're going to do something like that, how do people still come here? Because now, like you said, that lady previously said about people change their ways of moving. It's going to take years before they come back here on Albert Street. We still don't have loading zones. And we've been fighting since 2019. Where's our loading zones? My courier got fined $40 for parking for 5 minutes. The AT was there. To get a picture, he had to park on the curb because there's nowhere to park. And you know what he said to me? I'm not coming here anymore. I'm not going to have this hassle because there's no loading zones. They can't walk. We've got flowers and individual, you've got to bring them individually. You can't come 500 to 600 metres away with one container. It's going to take you all day. You know, it's going to take you 20 minutes. And if it's raining, you can't, you know, it really is a big thing for loading zones for us. But I still believe the hardship fund should continue right up until it's finished when we were promised verbally. We should have got it by email that this is what was going to be finished and this, but we were verbally told this every time the guy came up. And this is, you know, one of the stakeholders, the managers, communicators, said that's going to be finished, it's going to be finished, and you're going to reap the benefits. We're not going to reap the benefits until another, I don't even know. You've seen all the shops that are closed around us? We're one of the very few that are still surviving and not surviving. And, yep. You can continue.
Yeah, okay?
No, yep, that's fine.
Okay. So you can tell this is a really emotional topic for people. We have seen people's lives destroyed. It was unprecedented, and as Jug said, it has been helpful. I think the challenge is the length and the the severity of the disruption. We took it to Parliament. We got cross-party support to get a hardship fund. We asked for 3 things: better management of the day-to-day works, because you'll remember what they were like in the beginning. And to be fair, Link Alliance has endeavoured to do that. We asked for financial support, which it did come, and we asked for future projects to plan and budget for this in future. And that is, and actually we did get support from the Minister at that time for that position, so, you know, we're grateful for that. We don't believe...
Which minister was that?
Sorry?
Which minister was that?
Sorry?
Which minister was
the Minister
that?
of Transport, former Minister of Transport.
Michael Wood.
Yeah, Michael Wood, yeah. But, so we do appreciate that. We don't believe, though, that the promises that were made about the amount that was set aside, and there was I will just quickly give you the detail. The reality was there was an arbitrary date of when it would start, which was about February 21. The works actually started in October 19, yeah. And the people really wanted a back date because they were already financially stressed, and there was a view there wasn't enough money to do that. As it transpired, there was enough money, but CRLL recommended that the fund carry on for the rest of the project, and it has left some of the long-standing businesses really struggling. So I guess I just wanted to come here and make some lived experience, Mr. Mayor, so people understand the severity of these works and what it's doing to people's lives, and that we want to support the future vision. It is exciting, but we have to get there, and we want people to come with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. If I could just flag to my colleagues, this is something I'm really interested in us continuing to discuss, because I think that the nature of these projects now and the disruption that they're having, we need to learn from this and not be closed off to this as an option in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. And if I can just say one thing, if you do look at what's going on around Wellesley Street with works for a long time now, if there was some sort of ability to support those people, that would be very much appreciated.
Okay, thanks for very impassioned. It's right up my alley of complaint about temporary traffic management. They're so busy keeping 2 or 3 workers safe and you can't deliver goods. It's grossly, excessively invasive temporary traffic management. I'm at the government and everybody about that. AT need to be listening to this stuff today. You know, we're constantly told there's no problems at all, there's nothing but problems. Councillor Lee will finish this.
Thank you. Thank you, Viv, and thank you, Jagdish. Thank you for speaking truth to power, and thank you for your courage. And I say that particularly in regard to you, Viv, because your role, I understand, in Heart of the City is to talk up the city centre, talk up Queen Street and its retail, and if you, the risk of telling the truth about what is happening is that it adds to the negativity. But if you don't tell the truth, the reality will just get worse and worse. So thank you. I also acknowledge Jagdish because he has and his wife Shabana have been dealing with the CRL since January 2016, actually. Pre-works got underway on the corner of Victoria Street there. That's when that happened. That's a long, long time. Given that Queen Street and the inner city have been effectively blockaded and the blockade is being tightened in Wellesley Street, it's complete madness and destructive. The only hope that all of us can look forward to is the CRL. So the question is, are your organisations getting briefings of exactly when the CRL will open? You're not. I think that's a priority. I think this CRL Limited, the tunnel has been effectively completed. It's taken years to do footpaths outside your place, Jagdish, hasn't it? But anyway, there's a cost consequence to all of that. But I think that it's a priority that this council gives CRL Limited, putting AT to one side. AT have piled on to the CRL, even though they weren't meant to, by spending huge amounts of money. But leaving that aside, Mr Mayor, CRL Limited need a bit of a kick in the backside, and we need to expedite the opening of that service.
I don't disagree with any of that. I found myself to be a sponsor of CRL when I came. I did point out before I even got here that it was going to be $1 billion over budget, and I was within 40 million of exactly what it is. I haven't had a complete date, a believable date. There are dates given and dates passed. The contract that was entered into was naive and doesn't have penalties associated with those things. It's really annoying. None of us can even get into our building without tramping around bloody cones. You are sorry, unfortunately, the symptoms of a deep disease which is affecting all of us. And I know that I was questioned that you shouldn't say finish what we're doing before we start things, otherwise you won't start any new projects. We do have to finish what we're doing because we don't know what the impact of this is. I've got a sneaky suspicion we won't be having 57,000 people coming off those trains. I do support the continuation of the fund to compensate businesses in position, and I accept the short moment of familiar advertising from Councillor Ferry. It was a good thing, and I hope we can keep that going. Thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor Lee would like to move that we receive and accept this, and it'll probably be seconded by Councillor Fletcher, I think. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
The contrary carried. We will take this to heart, and we will be going, I will be asking the Chief Executive to come back with a report of where we are in the face of these things, plus those other future projects which are being proposed by CCOs. And I do want to remind people that despite the fact that I'm the Mayor, I don't have full control of either AT or water care or any of those other ones, thanks to the idiotic way that this council was set up.
Thank you for the
So they're going to move on that.
thank you for the additional time and the positive response.
Good on you, Viv. Cheers. Righto.
Good on you, Viv.
We have received no input from local boards, and I've no known extraordinary items, if that's not enough extraordinary stuff. And I would now like to welcome on item 7, Mayor Toby Adams and Nicola MacDonald and Chris Olivia from Aotea Great Barrier and Lucy Barraguanath. Welcome to your first presentation as the forum's new executive